Right, I made it. Traffic was a mess too. The police officer stationed at Olongroini. Oloi tok tok pale. Nimesema asante. Wache tuachie hapo. But here we are. It is Tuesday. You know, we talk about different social issues. A lot of issues came up last week, especially around the working environment. And it just got us thinking that, you know, maybe we can talk about it in general. Of course, bullying at the workplace, dating at the workplace, and just generally how in this year of 2022, if you want to start it out right. So that's why we're calling it At Work. Do you survive or do you thrive? There are different facets to the conversation, and we will invite you to give us your own experiences of what you think is a toxic work environment, things you've gone through. Now, this will be interesting because the other day I put a quote on my social media that, you know how, let me use CJ, Kina CJ will tell you lions. Let me try to use his voice. Willis, lions are not bothered by the opinion of sheep. But in the 21st century, I'm not looking at him. In the 21st century, sheep have keyboards and they hide behind handles. So it's going to be a bit difficult if your employer is watching and you go ahead and out them. So today I allow you to use your pseudo accounts to talk about your toxic work environment. On 22422, SMS is better. I think SMS will be better, so you don't leave your name and we won't show your number. So just tell us about your environment. The hashtag on Twitter, which is Daybreak, is where it might get a little tricky. But if you're feeling bold in 2022, why not? That's probably how change will begin. We are with Shaz. How you doing?
Missouri.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm great.
Yeah?
I brought you guys cake.
Well, we shall indulge. Can I be in charge of, you know, distribution?
Absolutely.
Absolutely?
I brought a lot of cake, though.
Oh, it's a lot? That's why I should be in charge of distribution. And Roberta Bobby? Uko sawa?
Niko salama salmini.
Buheri wa afya.
Buheri wa afya. Oh man, I could go on.
This is before. Shaz, do you have any contribution?
Mi nataka kuuliza wiki yako imekuwa poa.
Hey! There you go.
Imekuwa
guan. All right, CJ.
How are you doing?
How did I do at the imitation? Am I okay?
No.
It's because it didn't get deep enough.
No, you didn't.
I didn't get, I was like, it needs to be a bit, but it's all good. It's all good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And Shatta boy.
Wagwan.
Uko sawa?
Niko best.
From your many travels around the country.
Yeah, man.
Karibu sana. Ground iko aje?
Iko best. Yeah, man. Wabebe. Hiyo niliambiwa nikwambie nikifika na watu wa Luanda.
Wa Luanda.
You know what comes from Luanda most?
Yes.
They gave me a lot nikulete.
Asante.
Don't worry yourself. Everything nice. No?
Everything crazy.
Everything crazy.
Everything crazy.
Move life, man.
All right, let's talk about, first of all, the issue that came up last week. We are in, and the personalities notwithstanding, there's a lot of it that goes around, especially at some people who are dreading coming to work in 2022 because of just the environment that is there. And many people will have one of the resolutions, just the same way your house help didn't come back because you're the toxic one. They will have many resolutions of how to go around it, but they don't know how to, especially if the working environment is a little bit toxic. So maybe for those who are watching, let's start there before you go into dating your boss, which I'll be interested because Roberta did a poll yesterday. What walikupatia majibu utatuambia. So let's start there in terms of navigating a first of all, what does a toxic work environment look like? I'll start with you, CJ.
All this while you were looking at Shazmi.
It's like in football, so you think I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass the Shazmi, then boom, I get you.
I think it means different things to different people. It depends on our inner strength. Right. I'll say that because there are people who what you would call bullying to them would be something they can get past. They are built probably from childhood or from home with various circumstances to endure certain kind of difficulties, criticism, conflict. There are people who thrive even in places of conflict. In fact, if there's no conflict, they will nearly create one. Then there are other people who, if you go quiet on them, they already feel that's toxic. You manipulate them, you intimidate them, you threaten them, they already feel that that is toxic. See, it's like children. When you're raising up a child, there's a child that you may just reprimand, and they go and cry to the other parent and say, I've been beaten. And then this child grows up going all that way into the workplace. This is how they respond to anything that does not please them. They exaggerate it. So if they have a boss who will probably reprimand them, what their interpretation will be is that this is a toxic workplace. But generally, any place that robs you of your self-esteem, robs you of the passion and the life, the desire to wake up and come to that place, that's a toxic place.
But just to cut it short, so if the people who have developed a sort of thick skin, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like people who can take the bullying, is it necessarily a good thing or a bad thing? Are they suppressing? Are they just, hit me?
Well, there's adaptation.
Okay.
It is good and bad. It is bad when they keep allowing people to do that to them. It is good because the truth is, out there, you cannot control what people say, what people think, how they respond to you, what they will do to you, how they interpret your actions, your personality. You could come there in the best of moods. They will still interpret it the way they want to. And if you keep allowing people's opinions to get to you, you probably will quit everywhere. So there's a good part to it. But it also works against them when they begin to ignore the signs that whatever is happening around them is actually getting into them. Generally then, for me, Willis, I think most people would survive a toxic work environment if they had a healthy home environment. If they had somewhere else to run to and just release it and pour it out. If they had a support system somewhere else. Part of the issues that we would really have then in the workplace, is when you are dealing with toxicity at work and then outside of work. So you really have nowhere to get yourself healed. You have no place to release yourself. So it becomes so much, you are pressed and crushed to the place where you begin to feel life has no meaning. But again, I'll go back into what you cut out, and I don't want to take too much time. If it cuts the life out of you, if you wake up and think, I don't want to go there, you wake up and get into that environment, and no matter how much money they're paying you, you just feel, I'm in the wrong place. You dread being there. Like the moment you think about going to work, panic, anxiety, then that's a very bad place to be.
And most people, Shaz, are in that kind of situation where they dread, but then again, things like, if I quit, then, where's the money going to come from? So, because I called it thrive or survive, there are people who, I guess they're just comfortable with surviving, and that I think is dangerous in the long run. But then what does one do if you know that, wait a minute, okay, I don't want to be here, but I kind of got to be here because I have dependents and stuff like that?
So there's the realistic way to look at it. Not everyone, especially after 2020, can afford to let go of a job.
Right.
And I'm hearing and seeing even more of a situation of where bosses are taking advantage of the fact that we've cut your salary, we'll keep it cut, we'll put you in a bit of a box, you're lucky to have a job. But you see, the thing is, no one can condition you to think a certain way unless you allow it. Now, there's this analogy. If you take a frog and you put it into hot water, what's going to happen?
It's going to die or jump out.
It's going to jump out.
Yeah.
But if you take a frog and you put it into cold water, and you slowly start to heat the water on slow, then it will cook. And so you've got to be so careful of the environment that you are in, because that environment can slowly change you if you don't master the internal world. And this is the thing. It's not just a toxic workplace. It's a toxic world. It's the economy is toxic. It's some leaders are toxic. It's some relationships are toxic. Your parents could be toxic. Everything around you could be toxic. But it comes down to the mentality of, am I going to blame, or am I going to look at how I can be in a certain situation? So I had literally a beautiful 70-year-old man talking to me last week.
70?
A 70-year-old man. And I was just listening to him, and he was telling me that the work environment's really hard, and a lot of people went to HR and they complained about a certain situation. And I said, okay, but why didn't you? And this person's personality is just naturally very passive, very calm. I don't want to stir the pot at all. But I also noticed that the pattern on who you are at work, the pattern on who he was at work, is the same person who is that way as a father, that way as a husband, that way in so many situations. You don't want to stir the pot. You just want the situation to go away. Sometimes it's going to take you finding a brilliant voice inside of you that doesn't destroy, that doesn't hurt, but that can speak and say, I have boundaries, I know my self-worth, I know what I bring to the table, I know what I bring to the company, I know who I am. So if this environment's going to be toxic, first I'll master internally how I show up to work, which means I'm not going to wake up and think about how I'm going to dread the day. I'm going to wake up and think, how do I move my body? How do I do my journaling? How do I be grateful? What podcast can I listen to when I'm at work? What music, what song when I'm starting to feel I'm dipping a bit because of the environment I can put on? So I'm conditioning this person to show up and thrive at work. Or I could settle like this man and allow work to get to me. I'm going to dread going to work. I'm going to come home and talk about it. I'll be in social environments and talk about it. But that environment's defeating me. But that environment's going nowhere. It's not going to change. The bully is not going to change. The minute they see your vulnerability and they see they can feed on that, they will do even more of what they need to do. But the minute you know who you are, there's a difference with walking into a room with confidence and you know who you are and what you bring to the table. You will shake a bully because that bully is human enough and has been shaken to become the person they are. So we get scared of authority in a certain level. Authority became that way because they're scared of something too. And I always turn around and I tell some people, what if you're the light of that office? What if the office is so toxic, but you don't dim who you are to fit into toxic? You stay who you are, which means if you're singing at work, if you come with the donuts that day, if you put a cup of coffee, on the desk of someone who is a bully, but is struggling inside, and that's why they are who they are, and you leave a little note saying, I hope you have a brilliant day, I appreciate you for who you are, you're gonna shake somebody down. You're not gonna let your environment shake you down. And that's crucial.
And like Shaz said, Bobby, people are afraid.
Is there an offering basket?
Is
there an offering basket?
Therefore, I like the frog analogy. I don't think that one's gonna go past me for a long time. I'm gonna be like, are you gonna cook? I like that. So if people are afraid of authority, and again, sorry, I was on your stories a lot yesterday. So you talked about how you were also told a lot of things, and people were instilling fear on you about, Shaz, Bobby, Bobby, if you talk about love and orgasms, that's your blog, you might not get employment opportunities. People also say, if I want to leave this toxic, and I've seen it, if I want to leave this toxic work environment, I can't talk about it because my next employer might be on my TL or something like that. So how do you kind of liberate somebody like that?
It's very difficult for me to explain because you'd have to experience for you to understand exactly what I mean. But that's exactly how I felt before I spoke to Shazmin about something similar. Okay. A few months, last year, I was complaining to Shazmin about the same thing. I was telling her, I'm so tired of my workplace. It's my employer, if you're watching this, I'm joking. I need the paycheck. I gotta pay my bills. But I was talking to Shazmin, and she was telling me the reason you're noticing the toxicity in your workplace is because you've settled all the toxicity around everything else. So now everything else is calm, and now you're able to notice this place is not that good for me. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, because when home was crazy for me and then work was crazy, you know, I kind of used to go to work to escape the hell at home. But now I'm very, very peaceful. So it's very easy for me to notice when other things are bothering me. So if you want to survive this, you have to have great confidence in yourself. Nobody knows what they're doing. We're basically just all winging it, and we're learning along the way as we go. There is no path, except other than, you know, having the experience, but most of us are just trying to wing it. But something I can tell you is walk with confidence. Always have the confidence in yourself that other people might not always have in you. And when you believe in yourself, you're going to be able to make some decisions. And in as much as it's difficult, you know, you're thinking, okay, how will I pay my bills? How will I? And those are real issues and real problems. And when I started out my blog, people tried to push a lot of fear into me. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where to start. Saizo hata blogs hazikuwa zimeanza kwa kubwa in Kenya.
Yeah, that was like, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah, that was like kina Sharon Mundia, walikuwa tu bloggers kawa tatu wanne, and I was so young, and I was just trying to copy what people are doing. And people talked down on me a lot, and I just knew it. I knew in myself that what I'm doing is going to become something in some time. I wasn't making any money, I wasn't getting any benefits, and I really started Kukulia blog like 3-4 years later after its conception. And it was very difficult to stick in it, but the thing is, I just remained confident. And you never really know what is going to be next or what's gonna come next, but you have to trust yourself. So in the situation whereby there's all these external pressures about, you know, what you should do next or how you're going to go and everything, it's very easy for you to listen to other people.
Right.
But please have a plan for yourself. Decide what you want. If you want to be like Willis Raburu hosting the Daybreak Show, you might think it's such a far-fetched thing. You know, when you have these ideas in your head, it's like, will I ever make it? Niko na accent ya Kijaluo, hakuna mtu atanisikiza on national TV or things like that. And then you get spaces created specifically for you. Somebody wants a Willis Raburu, not someone to be like Willis Raburu. No, we've created this space specifically. Can you call Willis to come and fill it? So that's what happened, and that's what will happen. I can't really say you have to have a backup plan, and you have to know what next. But please don't be too scared, and don't be too focused about what you're gonna do, because siku jipanga. We're focused on leo na saizi na pali uko saizi, and do what you can to always improve yourself, because it's the little habits and the little things that you do every day in your life. It's the way you wake up, it's the things you say to yourself, like in the morning when you're going to work. It's so funny because everything Shazmina said right now, I practice it. I was like, no, you know, I'm just tired. I want to hand in my resignation. She was like, how about you wake up with new energy? How about you wake up more excited? How about you wake up with a to-do list for what you're going to do today and be intentional about your happiness?
Right.
When you're hearing these words, it's like, how do I be intentional? No, it's actually smiling intentionally and waking up and saying, today I'm going to be happy.
Right.
Today I'm going to spread the joy. Today I'm going to tell people I love them. You have to do the work. And you're going to see the results. It just comes in bits. And it's all about the confidence. It's all about the confidence.
But Shatta Boy, confidence is not so easy to build over time, especially if, and that's why I think Shaz and Bobby have said it's better uanze kujiongelesha nyumbani, kwa sababu ukifika ofisi utaongeleshwa na utaongeleshwa vizuri. People are, I mean, everybody's full of, there are threats, there are just, it might not even be your boss, it might be your colleague who just, you know, ako tu rough na wewe. So how do you get to a place where unajua mimi Shatta, mimi najiju, I know my worth, and so I'm not going to take it. How do you get to that place according to you?
Katana tu mafaulu.
Say again?
Mafaulu tu tunakatana na yeye mnaheshimiana. Sio ati nini. Bila bemo pia unamuka gwan. Anyway. Ukweli, let me tell you, nashindanga nikisema we need to unlearn a lot of things. We need to unlearn who we are actually. What we've been conditioned to be. You know, you've been conditioned to submit to authority. You think toxicity is authority. because you've been told this is your boss, you need to respect this. So whatever toxicity they bring, you think it's authority working like that. Unaona? So mi kwanza ningeulizwa workplaces, the HR department needs to be redefined. Unaona? HR ifai kuwa ni place ya kufuta mtu kazi na kuandika mtu kazi. Unaona? There is so much things that are happening that department needs to be broadened. Waeke hata kama ni psychologist hapo. Unaona? Ama mtu anaweza ongelesha watu, a counselor. Unaelewa? Because ukikuwa na boss toxic
na counselor mwenye hata nini kunaweza kuwa na counselor alafu akuwe spy. So yeye anagather tu information.
It's never for you. It's always for the company.
Nakwambia this counselor can be provided by an independent body like the government. Unaelewa? Yani you need to have
or your insurance
safe space
company.
Unaona? There need to be safe space for you to speak. Because if your boss is toxic, you can't go discussing your boss with your colleagues. They might go tell the boss. Unaona? Ama the boss himself, you can't face him. Utafuta kazi na shida zimejaa. Yes, or her. Shida zimejaa huko mtaani, watu wanamganga wanarudi kazi juu ya shida. Kitu inaweza kukufanya urudi kazi yenye ufurahi ni shida.
Manze.
It is problems and troubles and bills that will make you wake up and go to a job you don't want to be in. Unaget? So instead of saying acha nika nyumbani nikule shida, hiyo department ikikuwa broadened enough that if people have an issue they go discuss it. Unaelewa? But if you have a toxic boss, I believe they are just hurt. Unaona? Just that you can't tell them. But a bully is a person that is hurting. Unaona? What they need is love. But you see, you can't go be giving them the love.
I was about to. That will lead us into the next conversation about love.
I think it's pursued as an idea in the Bible. It's Corinthians that describes love. What love
Corinthians
is. First Corinthians 14 something. 13. Sindio? It describes what love is. If you are to read all of that, you will know this person needs this kind of love. Unaona? This person is resentful. This person
sana keeps no record of wrong.
Hiyo ni a girl child. We will get there. Hiyo ni a girl child unafaa kuambiwa hapo kwa keeping no record of wrong. But a toxic boss, what they need is love. But how to give it to them
is the conundrum.
But again, every employer needs to acknowledge the fact that kuna watu watapatiwa cheo na watakuwa na treat watu vibaya. What happens in that situation? How do I cushion my employees from such a situation? Unaelewa? Yeah, man.
There's a lot of anyway, before that, this is the question that we're asking, and remember, on SMS, again, I'll offer my free advice. On SMS, it's better because it can be anonymous. But again, if you're feeling 2022 is the year, you can go ahead and use your personal Twitter handle. This is the question they're asking you. We can go ahead and put it up. Describe what a toxic work environment is to you, and you can share what you've been through as well. Use the hashtag Daybreak and SMS 22422. You don't have to leave your name because we won't show it. You can just say, but if you're bold enough, I'm on Mashatoka hapo. Or you want to start the conversation, you can call your boss, say, there's something interesting on Citizen TV. And then we'll read it out and they'll know.
We got you.
So we got you like that. That's how it is. So share your views as well. So 22422, and the hashtag is Daybreak. Moving into the next phrase where Shata Msema CJ, that bosses need love. But sometimes that love can be taken advantage of, I think. Where now you have a situation where somebody starts dating the boss. Now, I'm not going to lie that there are those who maybe wameanza kudate boss yao and it eventually led to something. There are those ones. So please, let's not bite each other's head off. But most of the time, there are, just like in school, there are what they call sexually transmitted results. There are also promotions that are not based on anything apart from pillow talk. And then, and people around might know it. So what happens in such a case? Where there's somebody in it, there's somebody who is in it and wants to leave. And if they know that if they stop, they might lose the job. And we are in a COVID squeeze, so to speak.
Well, you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. When you're going to make choices, you need to understand that every decision is going to cut off something. So you can't want the best of both worlds. That would be a bit selfish. So if you really want to get out of it, count the cost. And you must be willing to pay that cost. If you feel that your conscience does not allow you to be in that relationship, then you should be bold enough to cut off the check as well. Because eventually you will live with your conscience. You can get a check from elsewhere. The temporary inconvenience of not having money for a while cannot be compared with the conscience that you carry every day. So I think that sometimes when people bring up that as well, they're not decisive enough. They have not made up their mind to leave. Willis, when somebody decides to leave, they don't make noise about it. They leave. When they have to go everywhere and talk about how they want to leave and they're not leaving and they're battling, they've not made up their minds to leave. And that's where you find then people begin to blame the other people of either the control or intimidation. See, you can wake up and send your resignation and say, I'm not coming back to work. And unless this ends and you will allow me to work just as anybody else, you can do that. But if you are in there and you have been a part of it, and then you are hoping that things will just change, the extra packs will keep on coming, you don't want to have a conversation about it. If you earn the extra packs through certain moves, well, it will be stretching it too much to expect to receive the favors and then keep on having the job. It's more like people breaking up and saying, you know, let's break up, but let's remain good friends. You know, the emotions that are involved over here, and somebody's going to get hurt. Now, you've got to realize one of the persons who is getting hurt, or rather the person who will get hurt here, has an advantage, which is power, which is authority that they have. So they can use it. When you put emotions to authority, you can get anything. You can get abuse, you can get to be misused, because emotions are very flary as well. So I think anybody who says, I want to get out of it, just needs to get out of it. They need to get out of it. First of all, mentally. They should follow what Shazmin was talking about, how to go to work. That's how they should get out of work. Tell yourself, I'm not going there. Begin to condition your mind. I'm going to have to go into a lower house, or I'm going to live with a friend, or I'll move back with my family, but I'm going to lose the paycheck. So, but I need to get out for the sake of my peace. And I'm going to leave this place. Begin to talk to yourself about that, even just mentally, even if you don't verbalize it. Have a friend or somebody that you know can carry you through that particular season where you are leaving this job for a particular cause. Somebody who wants to see you get better. So they can actually go through with you that particular period because they know why you have to leave the job. It's not easy to leave a job today, Willis. Right. It's not easy because everybody will call you lazy and they'll wonder why are you leaving a job, and everybody's looking for a job. Your own family will not be very happy with you. Your friends won't want to be around you. That's why you need somebody who would understand why you need to leave that job at that particular point. Then you need to probably broaden your scope. And maybe take up another job, which may not be the kind of job that you want, just for the sake of paying your bills. You may need to go into something else as you rebuild yourself, because that is what you will have to do. You will have to rebuild yourself. You will have to allow yourself to start afresh. And if you do well, you'll probably get up again. I need to say something about what Shatta was talking about, the bosses probably needing love. I think the word there is probably reassurance. Reassurance, because some of them have also been hurt by their employees. In leadership, people don't talk much about this, but in leadership, when you're a leader of people, how Shazmin will behave with me, whether it is in her leaving or while she's here, will determine how probably I will relate with Bobby, because I will then develop a template. So if I have invested in Shazmin with the mind that she needs to take over leadership, or the company have trusted her with certain roles, I've brought her very close, very openly in the beginning. If she breaks my heart and Bobby comes to take her place, she will not find the same boss. She will not find the same leader. She will find somebody who is guarded, who is protected, somebody who may not give so much, somebody who may not allow too much access, because he is protecting himself from getting hurt. Now, Bobby then will get upset about that and say, I'm leaving this place because this place is toxic. But from where this leader is sitting, the interpretation is, you see, you can't trust anybody. They don't know that what Roberto did was a reaction to whom he has become because of who Shazmin was to him. So he's changing even the more, and he's proving it. He says, you see, you can't trust anybody. So by the time Shatta comes in, he's going to meet somebody who is at a certain level of trust issues, somebody who is inanimate. They don't just care because they're trying to protect themselves. They're trying to preserve themselves. They don't care whether you come in or not. They don't care whether you have extra money or not. They don't care whether you have leave days or not, because they just feel like you're coming in to live just like the other people. Some of the people that we see have also been changed by the initial people they had. Some of the people we see, they've been changed by the initial people they had. And so people will talk about, you know, should I train or should I not? I'll give an example of our national airline. In the initial days, they used to take up people from Form 4 and then train them. They got to a place they had to set up their school so that people would come and pay because they were training these guys. And then when these guys get good, they go elsewhere for the bigger money. So you keep on losing so much money in training. You get to the place where you ask yourself, should I train or not? So they had to find a system. Now, that's why I'm saying that those bosses probably, they just need reassurance. It may not even have to be, you know, love in the expression of the emotion. They just need reassurance that they can actually have people that they can trust around them. Yeah.
All right, I'm told we have some feedback before we jump to Shaz and Bobby tells us the results of Would You Date Your Boss poll as well. Let's take a look at what people are saying. And I'm told they've taken my advice and most of them are SMSs. You see, we are not showing any name. It's just the feedback. We say, I have been to such environments whereby my colleagues used to speak tribal language. You know what? I quit despite a financial crisis out of there. Manze, it was too toxic to withstand. That's another situation. I quit my job pregnant, wow, in an international NGO 6 months into it. Within 6 months, I had gotten three discipline letters. Discipline letters, all right, thank you. Extended probation, I cried each and every single day. You can go to court for that. What I experienced in the workplace in 2020 while pregnant, I have never recovered and I have never been able to forgive. I was bullied by women just until I quit. Currently jobless, but at least I'm at peace. Sorry for that, and you know, thanks for peace. The church environment where you suspect the pastor is dating your spouse, well, damn, makes you hate attending that church and hate all churches. Okay, not all of them are the same. This is what CJ was talking about expecting the same from everywhere else. I left last year, a very toxic female boss who kept saying I get married, and she criticized everything I did simply because I was the best performer and I was female, probably threatened. Huyu anakuja kuchukua pahali yangu. I had a toxic boss, maze, morning nikifikiria kwenda job. Is like hell. I decided to leave the work for better peace of mind. Congratulations. Whoa, okay. I went through hell both at my former workplace and at home until I got depressed and I had no option but to quit the job. It has not been easy for me because I'm no longer interested in looking for another job, so I decided to start a small business with a little that I had saved. So people are really suffering at workplaces, but the courage to leave is not for everyone given the judgmental society that we are living in. But I thank God I made it. All right, congratulations. I used to work in a company where I had toxic bosses, that is the HR and the manager, Shatta boy. I had to quit the job. Then nikaanza kuuza mask. All right. I left my job due to toxic work environment. The boss used to promote people from his tribe, even if performance says otherwise. When I raised questions, I became jobless. He put false accusations against me, and since I had no one to argue my case, I lost my job. But I know God will reward me for the pain I have been through. All right. I tell you, we have a really, really toxic and a bully operations manager at my place of work. I've worked with different companies, but she is the worst. She sometimes makes ladies around cry just because they did something small. I remember one time she harassed an expectant colleague, akisema she is using the situation to waste working time. Myself, I even don't feel motivated working with her name, imagine. By the way, there are places you can, that's the last one, thanks. There are places you can actually go to report some of these people. That's the other thing. Most employers don't think you can go the extra mile and report them because maybe people are afraid, or they've made you feel afraid. There are actual places you can go to report, especially these ones where you're saying you are pregnant and you're bullied or you're run out of a job. You can actually go, or if there's wrongful dismissal, yeah, you can go and report them. I know it's easier said than done, but maybe if you start, we'll start seeing a different change. So for some of those people who are at home, Shaz, and they have the peace of mind, but then of course they're still battling with, I have some bills. How do they start? One of you said you said rebuild yourself. How do you start rebuilding yourself from a place where now you're at home, you left this environment, okay, good. What do I do now as I'm probably putting myself out there?
Peace of mind's relative. And if you're going to ever rely on external circumstances to give you peace of mind, it's never going to happen, because you've left your job, but you really don't have peace of mind because now you're worried about actual problems. You've got bills to pay, you've got school fees, probably medical insurance to keep up with. So this is the secret to having to live with toxic bosses or a toxic spouse, or it's first of all, and this is the one thing I will tell people, the minute you can master your emotions, which means it doesn't matter what situation you put me in. First of all, I know my worth. I know in the workplace what I bring to the table. I know that I'm consistently growing and re-educating myself, which brings out even more self-esteem in me. And then every single day, I'm aligned with who I am and the emotions I feel. I'm aligned with going to work and realizing this situation is toxic. How am I going to respond as opposed to react? Is the response in need to be external or does it need to be internal? I taught my son from a very young age, you are going to school, and school is authoritative because teachers are taller than you and they have a right to tell you who to be, but they never have a right to tell you how to feel and how or who you are as a person. So I always told my son, I pulled out his diary, and at the back it said, we listen to students, we're here for you, we're equal. And I turned around to my son and I said, from a young age, you never have to be rude. You never ever have to come across as the kid whose message got lost because your tone was wrong. But if a teacher is bullying you, before even involving me, you stand up and say, excuse me, I don't get talked to like that at home, and my opinion really matters there. So it's gonna matter here. Please don't talk to me that way. I'll listen to you if you're more polite, sir. It is something he has done up until today. Yeah. It is something he's done literally. Yeah. He had an experience last week in school where the teacher was in a huff and a puff because life happens to teachers and they're also human beings. And my son turned around and told the teacher, after listening to him, trying to calm him down, using a couple of tactics, the teacher just didn't want to budge. So my son turned around and said, look, sir, I don't feel you're giving me any respect and I don't want to be triggered. So should we just end the conversation now? And I don't want to walk away and I don't want it to look rude. And the teacher turned around and said, the conversation's over. And my son said, great, but I'm going to come wish you a good afternoon later on, sir, because it looks like you're having a really bad day. And he walked away empowered. He didn't walk away as a child or student feeling you came or you have one up over me. And it had the teacher come back to him later on and say, oh my God, Jibs, I was having a really crazy day. You handled that so well. I learned something from you. And when my son came to tell me, I said, I just learned something from you. And that was a lesson that got passed down. If you're in an environment where your boss is bullying you and it's toxic, it's how you react to them. It's how you handle it. The minute the boss sees you are cowering, they will tower over you. When they see you can voice back and you don't need to be rude because you understand what you bring to the company. You hired me. And I'm here getting paid for the job I'm doing. So I don't get to be treated a certain way. It's respect. It's a different generation. It's not the generation our parents grew up in, where they came and talked on the dinner table about how bad work was. This is a generation where you voice. You might be scared to talk to your boss and go up to them and say, hey, you can't treat me that way. But you do get to go up to your boss and say, excuse me, sir, I really do need to talk to you because this is affecting my mental health and I'm not comfortable with it. Nobody, unless they are extremely struggling in their own lives, will be able to push you aside because you can record it. There's so many systems now where people can't treat you that way anymore like they used to.
Yeah, you need to be able to use some of these tools. There are so many people who are taking notes. So Bobby, your poll, people what were some of the outcomes and what people were saying and what people felt about, you know, dating your boss and all that stuff? Yeah.
Okay, the general response from guys was that it's tricky, it's difficult, you need a lot of self-control, you need to be very disciplined, you need to be... But some relationships have actually come up from workspaces and they thrive and they grow. So I think it boils down to just the individuals as you are, as what you want for each other and for yourself and for the relationship. Because if this is what you want and you can work on it and you guys can be honest and you guys can keep your professional life professional and everything else aside from that, then it's very possible. But I'm of the opinion that it's a bit difficult because you always have to be extra aware. You always have to, I think you have to work harder at making sure things are okay and you don't bring dome zenu za mtaani kwa ofisi. Mmekosana hamtaki kuongeleshana and you have to do something together. So that's the difficult part. But everyone is basically in unison that it can work, but you just need to have the extra effort and to put in the extra work to make sure it lasts.
Right.
And just to add on to what everyone else was saying, you know, something funny is that most of these employers and bosses, they're way more insecure than you think they are. You might think someone is, you know, mighty and they walk tall and everything, but deep down they're way insecure than you.
Hiding behind a title.
Yes. And they probably haven't, and their insecurity also stems from, am I a good boss? Do they like me? Do they do the job how they're supposed to? Wanajishuku, but easy see opinions wanaweza air, especially if they're toxic, because they do not cultivate an environment where people are just able to communicate and say, because a good boss should be able to say, yo, you guys, I feel like you guys in the office don't like me. Can we talk about it? Is it the way I talk to you? Is it the way I set the rules? Is it the way... But somebody who's toxic will just know, everyone doesn't like me and they don't care because they think that's their opportunity to tower, especially over the cowards. I promise you, it looks difficult and it is difficult, but find your voice. Like Jibs, find your voice. Speak up for yourself, stand up for yourself. Sema, hii pesa manze ailingani na kazi yenye nafanya. There's no way I'm here for 45 hours a week and I can barely buy myself a nice meal. I can barely pay my bills. Like once ushalipa rent, ni hivyo. So now you have to get another job or find another hustle, and already you're giving 45 hours of your work week to this job. So speak up. It could go any way, but like Shazbin said, I promise you, you'll walk out of that place feeling very empowered, because there's nothing as beautiful as being able to find your voice, especially if you've never had it. The moment you're able to find your voice and just say, you know what, 45 hours doesn't match 15K. There's no way you're paying me 15K a month. It just doesn't make sense. If they say sawa tutakuongezea ka 300, are you willing to wait and see, you know, how it goes?
But you know, just to also add to that, it's being careful to not say, you know, in the workplace, if you're feeling my salary is low and is not matching what I want, the first thing to think about is, what else can I bring to the table to then match my salary? Do I need to get re-educated? Do I need a new skill? What can I do that will justify a salary increase as well?
You know, there's employers who the work is too much, and you have the education, you have the papers, you have the qualifications, you're bringing your A game, you're coming to work smiling, you're bringing the donuts, but they're still not paying you enough. So you're bringing the donuts, like, but they're paying you peanuts. Ah, man. So it's difficult, but please, I hope that at home you're able to find the voice. Not in a rude way, just be very, very honest and be very communicative. Sema tu. This is how I feel. Kama atakusikiza sawa, kama atakusikiza sawa. From there you can make your decision. But find your voice. It's going to help you find your voice in other situations as well, not just in the workplace.
Shatter boy, what if your boss is a bully? And I can see a text there where people are saying these days ukiongea na HR ni kama anakuseti. Umejipeana. It's right there. Reporting to HR nowadays is like telling your boss you're unhappy and suddenly HR does nothing but add salt to injury and you end up leaving. That's just one of them. There are some 5 others we'll take later on, but I just want to get your thoughts, Shatter, in terms of what if your boss is the bully? Yenda anakutalk down. Umeenda ukasema, by the way, ABCD, like I don't feel I'm getting what I deserve, then the feedback is, lakini unajua kuna watu ngapi wanatafuta job saizi wewe, you know, you are ungrateful, nini, and all that stuff. And
sometimes they just change how they're treating you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes they don't talk you back down.
They just say, okay,
okay. Then after that, you realize they've changed the conditions for your workplace.
Exactly, yeah. Unapata watu wanaenda trip, padia inafaa kwa 10,000, unasukumiwa 1,500 tumekulipia accommodation. What happens? Yeah.
Before nijibu hiyo, vitu mbili zimesemwa hapa.
Nilikuwa ukisikiza sana.
This thing put Shatta in a pensive mood.
Hiyo ya mshahara nayo, hiyo ni topic mpya analeta. Hiyo ni ya financial management. You see, because you got the job and you know this is my salary. Huwezi kulipwa 30,000 utafuta nyumba ya 20,000. Unajitafutia tu mashida zako binafsi, unaelewa? Haya, kuna ingine pia ya kudate your boss. Hiyo sikuweka kwa polls. Naweza kupatia opinion hapa hivi. It is not advisable to date your boss, because the moment you decide to date your boss, you have put a full stop to very many things about your career. For example, if you deserve a promotion at work, your boss might not promote you because they are your spouse, and they think if I promote you, people will think I'm promoting you because you're my spouse. Your opinion will stop mattering to people. You see, a colleague will want to tell you something and they'll think, no, if I tell this one, they'll go tell their husband.
Or the reverse. If I tell this one,
they'll go tell their wife.
Watakutumia kufika kwa house.
So kidogo watu wanacha kukuview kama colleague, unaanza kuview kama spouse wa boss. Unaona hapo kidogo umejiweka kama breaks. But kama mapenzi ni mapenzi, hauchagui, inakuja vile inakuja. If your boss is toxic, kama ndo unamuongeleshaga, let me tell you something. Man, people are afraid of going back to zero. Mimi sijaikuwa afraid. I will go back to that zero and rebuild. No, people feel that if I leave this job today because of this toxic environment, I will suffer. People will talk about me. It have to downgrade. Watu yangu watatoka private school, watu have kurudi public school. Mimi mwenyewe ndaanza kutumia public means. Unaelewa? You surround yourself with external fears that you forget the internal fear, the internal peace that I need to be okay with where I am right now. A short story about me. I used to do set books in Kenya National Theatre, and it got to a point I just got good. Kuna KI used to rate people, Kenya Institute of Education, and they were rating me very high at that moment. But I felt that this company I'm working with does not respect me. You see, because they taught me, they believe they took me from somewhere and taught me. But I am where I am right now. You see, so I quit the job. I stayed at home, no job, no nothing, na niko na bills. Wakanipigia simu. Ukuji kazi, nikwambia siliambia nimeacha. Wewe tumekufundisha kazi unataka kuturingia, nikwambia siwaringi, nimesema tu nimeacha kazi. Tumekufundisha kazi, nikwambia kuna watu wengine hapo wafundisheni pia. So safi tu. Mimi wafundisheni tu, mimi kwa sasa sitaweza. I cannot do that job. Unaona? Na nikakaa nyumbani kama 1 month. Niki struggle mbaya sana. But at that moment nilitake your time kujifind tena, na nikajiambia, because nililive hii kazi juu ya the toxic relationship I had here, nikienda kwa kazi next, how do I not go through this? Unaona? So I build myself in a different way. That kutoka hiyo siku sijawahi pitia same stress nilikuwa napitia kwa hiyo job. Ndio kuna stress zingine za kazi but sio zile. Unaona, I learned something. Niliteseka kidogo but nilishika rhythm. Unaelewa?
The thriver.
Yeah, so he's a thriver.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Right, let's take a look at some, the last batch of SMSs as we wrap it up here. Somebody says, I made a decision rather to quit my job 6 years ago. My boss literally wanted to control my life and make me feel bad about every decision I made. I'm happy I moved on. But I'd say one ought to be strategic once they realize their workplace is inhabitable as they plan to move out. Thank you. That is Osano Kavin. 6 years and able to give his name out. Good boy. Or man, sorry. Being in toxic Mjengo Kibarua environment, so it's everywhere. 10 weeks post CS with a premature infant, had to get a Kibarua to make both ends meet. I had to confine my colleague who took my mushene to the foreman about my ordeal for lesser tedious tasks What? The son of Jezebel fired me after a week that I'm not productive. I'm now stuck in the house, nursing my premature and hungry stomach, bills on my neck. May God come through for you. Indeed. May God come through for you. We'll talk about that in a minute. A job without leave off or time off when boss is away. He bribes the neighbors askari to report on absence or lateness. Wow. Guys, have you ever worked with a boss who is a womanizer, delayed my paychecks while squandering money with female employees in the facility which he fired and hired regularly? He ended up fleeing with my money. To such bosses, shame on you. And Pastor Benuma, there's need to also define what toxic environment really is. We tried to do that in the beginning. Incompetency and lack of capacity may create a toxic environment, so build capacity. One way of employees rising above it is critically understanding the organization culture, studying the manager's belief system, and applying corporate wisdom to survive before quitting motivated by emotion. CJ, I don't want us to leave before we talk to that person who said, you know, she's now has bills, and this is just because she quit and made the decision to quit. She has bills and a baby to look after. What would you say to them?
Well, I noted in most of the feedback today, or rather quite a number, we're having issues with ladies who have had to leave their jobs because of pregnancy. And I don't know whether that is an indictment against the society, how we view life and how we view pregnant women. I don't know what's going on, that we will either be sacking them or pushing them out of work instead of being a support system to them. I have these friends in Durban, and I don't know whether that's true for all. Shazmin may tell me, but I've got these friends in Durban who I think it's nearly an Indian culture that when a woman is pregnant, you nearly remove every task from her, just because you want to preserve the baby. So they want to make you as comfortable as possible. You know, one time with my last born son, when we had traveled with my wife when she was pregnant, they were not letting her do anything. And we would wonder why. And they're like, because you're pregnant, you're supposed to focus on the baby and the health of the baby. I think we need to bring back humanity into the human resource as well. We need to bring back humanity to work as well, and even the people around us, people, be the support system to them. Don't expect as much work from a pregnant woman or a nursing mother as the other people. You know, let them feel that as much as they get the check from that place, that's also a home. You spend a lot of time at your workplace. You nearly develop a family around that place. You most probably will call your colleagues first when there's an issue. They would understand you better. So we also need to recreate that environment so that somebody does not feel that it's only their skills that are required, but people are actually, people care about them, about their emotions, about their life, about what happens to them elsewhere, because all of this affects productivity at work. If it's not going well at home, it will not work at work as well. But for the lady, I hope that there are people around her life actually who can pick the cue from what I'm saying right now. That if she even tried to go to the Mjengo and yet she has a baby, I mean, that's just a huge sacrifice. So I hope there are people who can understand that this woman is not lazy, that they can try to support her to do something that is less tasking physically, start up something around her. I put up a post yesterday about friends supporting friends' businesses. I say sometimes give your time, your energy, your skill to your friend until their business rises. You may be bringing in digital marketing, you may be doing poster designs for them for free until their business stands. Keep your money around your circles, you know. So I hope that she has people in her circle who would actually see this woman is not lazy. She's even tried to go out in the Mjengo while she has a baby. What can she do? What can we put in her hands? How can we support her till this begins to rise and get established?
All right, well, we hope that that will work. I'm told that we're out of time, but you know, I hope you've picked up something from the whole conversation, and that your work environment in 2022 will be better. We have not told you to quit your job, but we have told you to look within and you know, have your conversation. And if, like CJ said, you count the cost and you think this is what I need to do, then you know you get to do it, because at the end of the day, guess what? you'll have to live with the decision and your conscience and everything. So for those of you who are bully bosses, we do hope you change, because you know yourself. You know you're a little bit of a bully. You know you're a little bit insecure. Yeah, you can change as well. And also for you who are working, pending all other things, give the best. Excellence is not event, it's a lifestyle. So I hope that everything becomes good for you. Make sure you follow Shatterboy, Shatter_boy on Instagram, Shatter TikTok on Twitter, Roberta Bobby across all platforms, Love and Orgasms, www.loveandorgasms.com. Listen to the podcast as well. Shazmeen Bank, who also shares amazing content as well on her page. Follow her, CJ Atemo. Make sure you follow.
Willis, sorry. Somebody already says to me they want to contact the lady who has a baby who's surviving on Django. They don't want their name mentioned, but they want to help.
All right, we're gonna Ibra, utanitolea namba ya huyo dem. Yeah, all right, then we'll help. So asanteni sana for all of you who have watched. We'll see you again here tomorrow. God bless you, peace and love, and successful people look like you, and the great Manchester.